Hello everybody. I am in a very good mood right now.
Welcome, everyone, to the first SkyminCast in way too long. The totally unorganized, not just a glorified just chatting stream. Today, we're going to be talking about Studio Ghibli films. So, yeah. As always, I am joined by my co-host, but you might want to reintroduce yourself because you've gone through a name change.
Yeah, I am no longer Enfro. It is now Paige. The change was for personal reasons, just not gonna get too into it.
Yeah. But yeah. Welcome. I don't know how many people are actually here. We're gonna talk about Ghibli movies.
Yeah.
As always, if you are not a subscriber, you can put in messages using channel points. That's one of the perks of the channel point stuff. So you don't have to be a sub to put in messages, but yeah, we'll go back to all the comments and any questions or anything that anyone wants to add at the end of it. But we should probably just sort of, start with Ghibli. I guess an introduction for Ghibli. Does Ghibli need an introduction?
Everyone knows Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli.
They are arguably... Actually, I don't even think it's an argument. They are the most well-known Japanese animated films. And probably anime in general, if you don't count, like, Dragon Ball.
I wouldn't say most well-known...
Most revered? Is that a bit more
they're
accurate?
kind of put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
With good reason. They are super high quality 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna be getting into at least one of those, but... Yeah. So, Ghibli is known for making those super high quality films that have been coming out since... Did they start in the late 80s?
Something like that. I know Hayao Miyazaki's been in the industry since the 60s.
Dude is old as hell. Smokes cigarettes by the pack. But I figured a good place for us to start would be our personal introductions to Studio Ghibli. Mine kind of comes a bit loaded, so would you like me to start or would you like to start?
Let's go with mine first, because it was, like, a very standard, kind of fluky one.
Mm-hmm.
So... growing up, I would watch a lot of Toonami on the rare nights my parents would let me stay up late. And what wound up happening was I wound up just switching channels, hitting Toonami, and if anyone's seen Howl's Moving Castle, they know the breakfast scene.
It's most any scene in Ghibli films, though. Like, everyone agrees the food looks amazing.
Yeah, like, my introduction was a Ghibli food scene, and I was hooked. I haven't seen all of their stuff, but I've seen probably 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't going to be like a comprehensive discussion of every single Ghibli film. Plus,
There are
we'd
too
be
damn
here.
many.
There's a lot of them. We'd be here forever. But we also just haven't seen all of them. And I know for a fact there's quite a few that I have watched in recent memory, but I've just forgotten. My memory has just said, this wasn't worth remembering. I'm sorry, it didn't put an impact on me. But did you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I happened across a food scene, wound up looking up information on the movie, and started watching more of their stuff.
Alright, so I used to hate anime. I used to hate anime so much.
Tell the good people why.
What was my reason? I know I still have a bit of an issue with the frame rate. The frame rate's always gonna bug me, but I've mostly gotten over it. But we can get back to that frame rate with the Ghibli. Oh god, that movie.
Oh god.
We'll get back to that. But I think I thought it was overrated. I think that was my reasoning. And
from what I understand, you also were kind of a contrarian for contrarian's sake.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's also why I hated first-person shooters for the longest time, but we're not talking about that. This is about Ghibli. But yeah, so I hated anime for a long time. But as a kid, I found Princess Mononoke, and by kid, I mean like 8-year-old. So, I found Princess Mononoke in the video store, and my dad was like, yeah, sure, we can rent that. Now, if you've seen Princess Mononoke, 8-year-old probably should not be watching that film.
Mononoke is...
There's a guy that gets decapitated.
That's
and arms torn off.
It's not
and blood.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's no Kiki's.
It's not Kiki. Kiki's totally fine for kids. Princess Mononoke, there's a lot. The entire thing is about war. Like, we'll get into it. But I picked up Princess Mononoke and loved it. I was a messed up 8-year-old, if you couldn't tell.
Honestly, I'm more surprised that your dad let you watch a good movie.
Anyhow, so for the longest time, if people would ask if I like anime, I would say, no, I hate anime, but I like the movies because I had seen Princess Mononoke and I think a few others. I think eventually I saw Spirited Away. But I was like, I like the Miyazaki films and that's it. I hate everything else. Obviously, that has now changed, but we are here to talk about Ghibli movies. So my introduction was 8-year-old me at a video store, picked up Princess Mononoke, and loved the shit out of it.
Meanwhile, mine was just getting very lucky watching late night cable.
So what do we talk about? You know what? Like I said, this is very unstructured. Why don't we talk about our favorite ones?
Okay, you want to go first?
Princess Mononoke. That's not really a surprise, but my personal favorite Ghibli film is Princess Mononoke. It's probably partially due to nostalgia and the fact it did, like, introduce me to anime as a genre and medium. But I honest to God think it is one of the best Ghibli films. I absolutely love that movie. And of course, 8-year-old me didn't exactly understand the messages of anti-war and nature destruction. But I thought it was a good movie.
You appreciate the messages now, right?
Oh, no, I absolutely do, yeah. Every now and then rewatch it because it's such a great film. Mm-hmm. But that film has really good action and really good characters.
Unfortunately, I can't say too much on it because I haven't watched it in like 10 years.
Oh, right, we didn't rewatch it when we were doing our Ghibli binge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and by binge, I mean watching like 4 movies.
So those of you who don't know, Princess Mononoke is about, I believe it's feudal Japan. I might be wrong on that. Industrial Japan. It's industrial Japan. Because they're starting to get metalwork going. Yeah. So Princess Mononoke is about the industrial time in Japan where a prince of a small tribe gets cursed after fighting a demon. And he is then exiled from his village and goes on a journey to, like, you know, get the curse worn off before it murders him. He runs into a village ran by this woman who is basically going around killing all the spirits and wanting to dominate everything and tear down forests to make weapons. there's a
Cough,
wolf
cough,
girl.
Fire Nation, cough, cough.
Yeah, basically. There's a wolf girl that was raised by wolves and comes and terrorizes. It's a bit of a loaded film. It's actually not the easiest to explain because there's a lot of moving parts. But industrial Japan, demons and spirits freely roam the earth, and woman wants to destroy nature in hopes of making money and weapons, which includes killing the forest god. Which, becomes the climax of the anime. I'm very bad at explaining this.
A little bit.
Regardless, if you have any interest in anime stuff and you've never seen Princess Mononoke, it is a very high recommendation for me.
One thing for Ghibli movies in general, they're not particularly sexualized, which is a nice change of pace.
No, but you can tell with Mononoke herself, there is some... She wears skimpy stuff.
Yeah, but it's not really attention called to it. It's more meant to show her differently or more primitive.
That is true, yeah. I think Mononoke is handled very well. Of course, it does kind of devolve into the man and woman get together at the end. But I think it's handled pretty well, because throughout the whole movie, Mononoke is very abrasive towards the human way of life, because she was raised by the wolf god, queen, I don't quite remember exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't remember. Regardless, she was raised by sentient talking wolves. And
they are really cool.
Yeah, and she's very against human nature. She's very against the woman who's, going through and destroying things. And it takes her a long while to warm up to Ashitaka, who is the prince. So it is handled very well. It's not an instant attraction thing. They kind of learn to appreciate each other's sides.
I mean, that's a pattern you'll see with all of the movies, is they're all, well, I say all, but all of the good ones, kind of their two peaks are just art and writing.
Yeah.
Performances are typically nothing to write home about.
Well, it doesn't help if you're watching the dubbed version, which I prefer. I'm probably that heathen that just prefers dubs, but I would like to not have to constantly read subs.
Well, you also can't really judge a voice performance in a language you don't speak.
Yeah, that's extremely hard. I know there's some people that can. I have never been able to do that. I don't know if they're doing a good job.
I kinda can sometimes, but it's...
How?
I can more tell... I can't tell by their delivery or line reading. What I can get is their tone. So if you... I'm gonna use Dragon Ball as an example here. The original Japanese voice of Frieza, Ryusei Nakao, gives an incredible performance, regardless of if you can speak the language, just because of how menacing he is. And the fact that he has to do, I want to say 4 different voices for Frieza and his family, because they all transform. You can see range in the voice he goes for, you can tell how menacing he is in delivery, and you don't have to speak the language to know, this is the big bad scary guy, do not fuck with him.
But it is really hard, specifically for Japanese, because Japanese emphasizes the way a word is said, and it's really, really hard to tell if you do not speak the language.
Yeah.
But I'm a scrub that prefers dub over sub, if possible.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's however you want to watch it.
But yeah, so my favorite Ghibli film is definitely Mononoke. What is yours? Howls.
Mine is Howls.
It's Howls. It's both the ones that we were introduced to Ghibli/Miyazaki.
Yeah, I mean, a huge part of that is nostalgia for me. Like, it's hard to get away from the attachment to something like that.
Howls did win the Academy Award in 2004, didn't it?
For Best Animated?
Yes,
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe it did. Didn't it? I vaguely remember watching it happen.
I'm looking it up. ...2004, Best Animated Feature.
Was it 2004?
No, Finding Nemo won 2004.
Oh, wait, was that... When did Howls come out? It was somewhere in the early 2000s.
Howls never won.
Oh.
Howls lost to Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, right, that year. I forgot. I can't complain. I love Wallace and Gromit, but...
Yeah. And honestly, at some point I want to talk about Best Animated Feature in one of these, because it is an adventure to look through them.
Not tonight, but in the future. Well, actually, speaking of Ghibli, wasn't Spirited Away the movie that created the animation category?
No, because in 2001, Shrek, Jimmy Neutron, and Monsters Inc. were nominated. They existed the category existed first. It was basically...
When did Spirited Away come out?
Spirited Away? It came out in 2001 and it won in 2002.
Okay.
But to go off on a very
My
brief
bad.
tangent, Best Animated Feature came out because of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, right, it was Beauty and the Beast. Okay. That's my
That
bad.
was the first animated film ever nominated for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And if it had come out in a different year, it probably could have won.
Alright, so Howls. We've gone off on enough of a tangent.
Howls, to me, one thing to know with Miyazaki is his movies are incredibly blunt in having an anti-war message. All of them. Howls is no exception. It takes place during what would you say, World War I facsimile?
Would that be World War One? It's hard to tell with all the technology.
Yeah.
I guess it would be one.
When it comes to styles,
Yeah.
is what I'm looking at. It's kind of a World War I facsimile, but with magic, monsters, the whole standard anime shebang.
Howls was actually adapted off of a European novel. Apparently Miyazaki really likes doing that.
Yeah, which we'll get into. But
Yeah. Because there is a parallel here, because he has adapted another one of the novels from the author who did Howl's Moving Castle, and we will get into that because those two have to be good.
That one.
He didn't do that one, but it's a really damn good comparison of how to adapt something and how not to adapt something. But we'll get into that.
So, Howl's Moving Castle. Woman named Sophie, cursed by a witch to be very, very old.
Old woman. Yay.
Basically runs away from home trying to find help, and gets sucked into the life of Howl, a wizard in a moving castle.
Shenanigans ensue, basically.
Yeah. It's a very character-driven story that I can't really explain through here.
Yeah, it's actually really hard to talk about all of these movies because...
Kind of specifically Howl's.
Yeah.
But Howl's is realistically a collection of fantastic character moments strung together, telling a loosely cohesive story focused around how those characters react to everything around them.
That finally gets tied up in the last act and everything comes together.
Yeah. But it's incredible. It has some fantastic art and some legitimately fantastic vocal performance, or voice acting performances in the dub.
Yeah, I think...
Billy Crystal's Calcifer.
Yeah, I think that was probably when people were like, oh, dubs can be really good. Granted, I like the Mononoke dub, and Spirited Away is as good as it probably can be. But
yeah.
I think Howl's is the one where people started to really appreciate and understand.
The cast was fantastic. I think it was Christian Bale as Howl.
Mm-hmm.
Who,
honestly, I
Emily
don't
Mortimer
like.
as Sophie.
I don't like Christian Bale as
He's
Howl.
fine.
I feel like there might have been some Well, it's really hard to tell because I can't understand the Japanese dub. I can't understand how the performances are done because of the language. But I feel like Bale might have misinterpreted quite a few scenes with Howl because there's a lot of things that don't line up with his facial expressions versus the voice.
That's fair.
And I want to say that there was some misinterpretation in trying to explain to him what was supposed to go here, but don't take that with a grain of salt because I'm not sure.
But the magic sequences are all incredible looking.
Mm-hmm.
Running along with the star fragments that Calcifer was with, where Howl, spoilers.
Howl eats him. No, I'm kidding.
that entire segment is some of the most beautiful animation I have seen.
I mean, that's just Ghibli and Miyazaki in general. They make, it doesn't matter how great the like content of the movie is, they will always visually be pleasing.
As long as it's 2D.
Yes. Do we need to get into...
Do we want to just go with
I
it?
think we need to because we're talking about Howls. So, the latest film from Studio Ghibli was Earwig and the Witch. That was the title, right?
It's on HBO Max right now.
For free, if you really want to watch it, where all of the other Ghibli movies are. It's
Highly
not
recommend
good.
most of them.
It's not good. It was actually made by another Miyazaki. It was not made by Hayao. It was made by his son.
Goro Miyazaki. Who's he's the lesser Miyazaki.
So, the reason we're talking about these two back-to-back is because Earwig was written by the same original author of Howls. Howls was adapted and very heavily changed from the novel.
The novel was a very short kid's book.
Yes. So was Earwig. But the problem was Earwig was never finished because the author died. But they published it anyhow. And Goro decided to be extremely faithful to Earwig.
To a T.
Yeah, like exceedingly faithful to the point where the entire movie does not work. Nothing about the movie works. Even the stuff that's not necessarily tied to the novel itself, like the visuals. Because it is actually...
Some of the visuals work.
It is extremely inconsistent. The food always looks fucking amazing. I swear to God, that's where all of the time and effort was put into, was, we gotta make the food good, guys. I don't care about everything else. That, like, French toast has to look super edible.
The Mandrake piano sequence was very good.
Yes. But Earwig and the Witch is about a baby who was dropped off by a witch in an orphanage, and years later she grows up and gets adopted to be the assistant of another witch.
Who doesn't know that she's,
Yeah, there ends up being a connection between that witch, the Mandrake, which she lives with, and her mother.
And the Mandrake's a very powerful, very tall demon.
Yes. And, the concept sounds fine.
Concept is fine.
Yeah, like, it could have been good as a TV show, because what happens is there's basically zero payoff for everything. The film's only like, what, an hour? Is it an hour 30 or an hour 20?
Hour 30.
Yeah. So it's a relatively short film. It is Studio Ghibli's first foray into 3D, and that's an issue in its own.
Because Hayao Miyazaki specifically said he tried 3D in the past. Like,
it didn't work.
He tried it. He couldn't get it down. Like, everything he did with it came out really, really flat.
And that I can see from Miyazaki, because Miyazaki is very much about traditional animation. That makes sense. But apparently he gave his blessing to Goro and be like, yeah, you do you, take some animators. But apparently the animators had never worked on 3D films. Yeah. Goro was the only one with 3D animation experience and knowledge. And it shows so badly. The lighting, for whatever engine they're using, is awful. There's basically no lighting. It looks like they tried to make the most natural lighting with the least amount of lights, and that doesn't work in most scenes. There are times in which natural lighting needs to be the case, but in 3D animated films, and really any animated film, even some live action, you have to be able to accentuate silhouettes and stuff. You have to be able to see shit.
Can I actually talk very specifically about lighting for a minute or two here?
You're a nerd. Go ahead.
It's lighting in film, be it live action, animation, hell, even in stage, is a game of exaggeration.
Yeah.
You have to push the envelope to enhance the emotion of the scene, and the bigger issue is you have to guide the audience's eye. And
of course there is such a thing as way too much bright lighting. Like, oh god, you can go overboard with it.
But look at the scene everyone, or the shot everyone talked about in Toy Story 4 with the cat, the lighting in that is completely unbelievable. It's just a single beam of light from the top down on the cat. But it looks incredible because they're trying to draw your eye to the phenomenally animated cat.
I think you mean phenomenally furred cat.
Well, yes. But it is incredible work.
Yeah. But, yeah, Earwig has a serious lighting problem. I think that's the one thing of the visuals that is consistently terrible. It works in a few scenes, like, I think it worked in the flashback sequence with the band.
Yes,
and
that worked well.
I think the Mandrake's room worked.
The Mandrake's room worked because they basically showed everything as a light source and
Yeah.
minimized shadows. Which was actually a really cool effect for contrast.
But the animation itself, oh god, they need to go back to the drawing board. So, for me, and I think anyone that's seen it, the standard for 3D anime is Lupin the Third the First. Is that what it's called?
I believe so.
Yeah. The relatively recent 3D Lupin film. That animation is fucking incredible. Like, that is how you transition traditional 2D anime into 3D and still keep it stylized and recognizable.
Yeah.
Amazing film if you haven't seen it. It's not a Ghibli, but I recommend it highly.
Even a lot of video games get this right because they have to.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Dragon Ball again, but I mean, come on, it works.
Yeah.
Fighter Z, those are all 3D models, but they look like the 2D stuff from the game, or from the show.
Yeah.
And no matter what angle they shoot them for, they look really good and keep the style.
Lupin doesn't technically do that, it just adapted them really well into 3D. And in terms of the character models, like, the basis of the character designs are pretty good in Earwig. But there's a huge problem with texture. Like,
it's incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah, there are some pretty decent looking textures in that. Like, for some reason, they put a hell of a lot of time onto coat clothings and coat materials. I don't know why. But, like, God, everyone looks like plastic. And you can't,
it's really bad.
You can't say it's a stylized choice, because it just, you can tell it's not. Like, there's a lot of textures that don't look finished, and couple that with poor lighting, and it's glaringly distracting, at least to somebody who... Do I want to call myself an animation buff?
Yeah, you basically are. You watch a lot of it.
I watch a lot of animation. But aside from, like, the really inconsistent visuals and the most... I don't even know about cinematography, because it's just standard. Like, the
cinematography is nothing abysmal. Like, it looks
it works.
fine. The shot compositions all look fine.
They put a hell of a lot of time into the scenes, though. You spend a lot of time in the witch's room where she makes all the potions and stuff. Holy shit, the amount of things in that room.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. But the biggest problem, like, when we were watching it, I was totally fine. I was like, okay, there's definitely some issues, but I'm enjoying it. The biggest problem is the end of the film sneaks up on you. And the reason...
And then hits you like a freight train.
Yeah. So, remember how we talked about that the whole thing is Earwig was left in an orphanage and gets adopted by another witch who doesn't know the connection to her mother. How do we explain this?
So, spoilers here.
I don't think anyone cares about spoilers, but yes, we are going to talk about spoilers for this.
So, what you wind up getting is Earwig finds a plot MacGuffin. She finds a record, or a tape, something, that was left, that her mom left for her at the orphanage, like just as a gift. That is a recording of the band that Earwig's mom, the witch who adopted her, and the Mandrake were all a part of, along with some unnamed rhythm guitar guy.
Who was probably the father.
Probably. But what you get
is Earwig getting her way, manipulating her way up the ladder to control the Mandrake and the witch. A montage.
Well, she didn't control the Mandrake. She got the Mandrake's favor, and the Mandrake basically controlled the witch.
Yeah. Just out of fear, really. So she basically got everything she wanted. There's a little montage of time passing, and then suddenly her mother appears at the door and the film ends.
Yeah.
There's
no payoff.
There is zero payoff. There's zero ramp up. It's like they were quickly trying to finish the film, and they were like, this is good enough, we're good, just shove it out the door. But the reason it's an issue is because that was the ending of the book. Because the manuscript was not... Thank you.
Yeah. It just popped up.
The manuscript was not finished, but they decided to publish the author's writings anyhow.
Blargle.
Which is fine. But what you do is you take the author's notes for how it was supposed to end, which exist,
Mm-hmm.
and you can fill in the gaps with that style. They would have been able to get the blessing of that estate. They did fucking Howls, which changed everything.
Yeah, so here's where the connection, essentially, between the adaptations come in with Howls versus Earwig, because they essentially took two very different turns. Obviously, Earwig stayed extremely faithful to the book, while Howls deviated quite a lot. The whole war message, which was, kind of central to the plot, that was added by Miyazaki. That was not in the original book. There was also a lot of differences between Sophie's Curse, and there was something else I remember reading about. Do you remember?
No.
Point is, there were a lot of changes that not only favored the movie, but made it so that you could tell it was coming from Miyazaki. He made it his own thing while still respecting the source material.
Yeah. Which you have to do.
Yeah, you have to do. Like, as much as a lot of people hate non-faithful adaptations of books, there are times in which things have to be compromised in order for it to work in the film. I'm not talking like Percy Jackson level of compromisation.
Jesus.
Of compromising, because that's destroying the source material, which is a 5-novel, story. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this tiny children's book that had a basis for things but didn't flesh anything out. What Miyazaki did was take what was there and fleshed it out in his own way. Goro didn't do that.
Yeah, no.
Goro just adapted it basically verbatim. And especially when your author has died, you're not going to get a proper ending.
No, not at all.
Like, the basis for Earwig was good. But not only did it feel...
good. I love the concept.
Yeah, not only did it feel extremely rushed, and Earwig is also a piece of shit, but that one is subjective fully.
Yeah.
Fucking
I'm okay with her.
Earwig sucked. She got everything she wanted.
She's a kid.
She was a very manipulative kid that knew exactly what she was doing.
Yeah.
But the ending just hits you randomly. It's just one of those things of, we straight up sat there questioning, it's over? What?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, we were sitting there watching the credits like, there's no way this is it. What happened?
No idea.
No, Earwig is really bad. And from what I understand, because I never watched Goro's first film, which is... What was it?
Earthsea.
Yeah, Earthsea. But I have read and seen that Earthsea is one of the most boring films.
It is. I've seen Earthsea once. I don't remember jack shit.
I've never seen it, and I don't want to see it at this point.
Like, it's not awful, but it's boring as sin.
Yeah. It's almost like Goro took all that criticism and just 180'd. Because instead of a movie being really boring, it's really fast. And there's just always something happening.
It's way too much.
Yeah, in such a short time frame. Like, if they had, deviated from the source material and made it a miniseries, it would have worked really well. But couple that with, obviously, a team that is not experienced in 3D animation, and hugging the source material like your life depends on it, resulted in a very, very messy movie that I definitely don't recommend unless you just want to see what's wrong with it.
hmm
There's no payoff for anything. It's not worth it. If you have HBO Max, sure, plop it on in the background, but
The song, even the song that becomes the focal point, is not that great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's fine. I don't hate it. But you get so many iterations of other people singing it in the movie that it just
Yeah.
kind of blends together and winds up sucking because you lose the impact.
It's like the only fucking song throughout the whole film. I mean, there's obviously a few backtracks, but
No, half the songs in the score are
variations.
are variations on that song. Straight up half of them.
That movie pisses me off so much. Don't watch it, guys. It's bad.
It's really bad.
It's really bad. But why don't we move on to more positive stuff?
Okay.
What?
Which ones do you want to start with?
What else did we watch together? Do you remember?
Wind Rises was the big one.
Yeah. That was we watched that a few months back. I was okay with Wind Rises.
It's another one where the ending kind of sneaks up on you.
Yeah, but it's not as egregious as Earwig. Earwig is a very special case. But Wind Rises is definitely, well, Ghibli movies are almost never kid-focused. The most kid-focused one's probably Kiki's.
Yes, which I'll talk about later.
So Wind Rises is definitely not a kid's movie in terms of setting, tone, all that jazz.
No. It's a very good movie.
Yeah. It can lean more on the boring side depending on what type of movies you personally enjoy, because there is a lot of talking and a lot of just planning. Because the whole film is about this kid who has wanted to be a pilot, but due to his eyesight he can't, so he becomes an aerospace engineer or whatever. I think that's the wrong term. Just an engineer.
Engineer for planes.
Yeah. A plengineer.
No.
But it deals with, like, what, tuberculosis?
Yes, one of
a tsunami.
The love interest has tuberculosis. It's not a tsunami, it's just a normal flood.
Okay.
The movie opens with an earthquake. It's in World War II Japan. Like, it's dark.
Yeah, it's not a happy movie, really.
Yeah, it's not an aerospace engineer at the time because, no space.
Yeah, but it is a plane engineer.
Yeah.
But Wind Rises definitely treads way, way more on the mature line. I would not suggest it to a child or anyone that can't sit there and really focus on the plot and the setting. It's, again, anti-war because Miyazaki has a hard-on for it.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, but wasn't the whole thing about the character, he didn't want his planes to be used for war. He just wanted to fly.
Yeah.
Aeronautical, yeah. But it's your standard, it's your standard Ghibli / Miyazaki. Ghibli and Miyazaki are basically the same thing at this point.
Yeah, they're very interchangeable.
Yeah, simply because he directs a majority of the films.
Made and directed. Like, he's mostly retired at this point.
He's still working on his, remember? Like, his next one has been in the works for quite a few years.
Yeah, but again, mostly retired.
But that's why we specified that Earwig was his son, because it was very not that Miyazaki. It was a different Miyazaki. But it's very much a film from him, you can tell, because, again, anti-war. It's a very big thing for him.
And he tells them, he gets the message across really well every time. Like, there's nobody who tells a story like that better.
Mm-hmm. But, do you want to talk about Kiki's? Because I can't. I have seen the live action one the most recently, and that was like a couple years ago.
Yeah. So Kiki's Delivery Service is probably his most kid-focused movie.
I mean, it is about a kid witch, so.
Yeah. It's super charming. The one major issue, if you want to call it that, is that the love interest feels a little shoehorned. And even then, it's less of a love interest and more of just like a friend interest. It's a kid's movie.
Yeah.
But Child Witch goes off to the city for basically a trial kind of thing for lessons. and meets a woman, falls in with her, basically gets adopted, and joins the family. Decides to start running a delivery service side of the woman's business because she's got a flying broomstick. Why wouldn't you help out?
Hijinks ensues.
Basically, like, a lot of these are...
There's a basis, and then it's whatever the hell happens day to day.
Yeah, like, they're slice-of-life movies, which is rare and weird, but I really like it if the writer can do it well.
The thing is, a lot of them are slice-of-life movies with a mystical element thrown in. That's kind of what Studio Ghibli excels at.
And they're all really well executed, beautifully drawn and animated. If you want, like... I guess what you could say for Ghibli's greatest strength is solid writing and phenomenal technical execution.
Yeah, no, you can't... Aside from Earwig, you can't go wrong in the visual department. They're all very, very well put together visually. Yeah.
Earwig is just bad.
Yeah, Earwig sucks. It's the only one I'm gonna, like, totally shit on. It is a terrible movie.
Yeah.
I know I relatively recently rewatched Arrietty. And
that one I have never seen and cannot comment on.
That's fair. I remember when Arrietty aired in, well, I say air, was in theater. It was in American theaters because the Disney Channel kept pushing these advertisements about how these Disney Channel teen stars voiced all of the cast, and I
remember that.
It was the girl from Good Luck Charlie. It was Justin from Wizards of Waverly Place. And it was like those two, they just took people from it and they're like, hey, we have you under contract, go voice this anime that we have the rights to for the dub.
Yeah.
But Arrietty is about the little people who live between the floorboards and go out and, you know, nick some stuff for living purposes.
That sounds adorable.
And a boy who has like a chronic illness comes to stay at the house that Arrietty and her family are living at, and they get discovered. Arrietty and him form a friendship, but once they get discovered and the family figures it out, they, you know, have to move for their own safety. It's a very bittersweet ending. But slice of life, little people. There's not much more to comment on.
Yeah, they're hard movies to talk about just in general, which is unfortunate.
Hence why we did all Studio Ghibli movies, at least the ones we could talk about, because we can't just sit here and talk about one movie for an hour.
Yeah. Which I kind of wish we could. But...
There's not really a movie we could... Well, I don't know, Justice League's 4 fucking hours.
I mean, I would totally be down to talk about that movie and what went wrong.
I don't know how to talk about that movie because I barely remember the original cut. Why are we talking... Okay, hold on, let's not talk about...
If we run out of Ghibli, let's bring that up.
But what else? What else did we watch?
I think those are the only ones we watched together.
You've never seen Ponyo.
No, I have not.
Ponyo isn't great story-wise, but it is amazing visually. Oh my god, that instant ramen. That sounds disgusting, but if you've seen the scene, you know what I'm talking about.
I have seen that scene.
Yeah, Ponyo water animation. Hot damn. Amazing. I guess we're starting to run out of stuff. I guess anyone in chat wants to, you know, chime in on some things.
We could also talk about some other movies. We've been live for, Jesus, it's been like, what, 40 minutes?
46 minutes.
Thank you, Hairbrain.
Should I just change this to boobies? Movies.
Yeah. I mean, I would actually be down to talk about Justice League, because even in the Snyder Cut, there are a lot of major problems.
I can't talk about it in comparison, though, because I don't friggin' remember anything.
So don't talk in comparison. Just talk about Snyder Cut in a vacuum. I never saw the original.
I think almost everyone agrees that the Flash Rewind scene is amazing.
It is fantastic.
It is, hands down, the best scene in the movie. It is very well done visually. But there are definitely some issues with the CG. And I think that's kind of just a given in DC/Marvel films. There's always going to be some iffy things, but with Snyder
Overall,
Cut,
it's fine.
Yeah, overall it's fine, and there's still some really good ones, but there are some really weird CG characters in terms of movement.
Yeah. One of my big things with it was the pacing was still abysmal.
Yeah. While I prefer what we got in the 4 hours, there was at least 30 minutes that could have been cut out, probably more.
Yeah, it should have been more of a Return of the King, less of a Dinotopia.
What is Dinotopia?
Something that is not worth getting into.
Okay.
Well, short version, it was a TV series that was canceled after 4 episodes. The 4 episodes that did air got stitched together into a movie that got a home video release.
So it's kind of like the Atlantis. Disney's Atlantis.
It is Atlantis 2.
Where it was 3 pilot episodes shoved together and marketed as Atlantis, and then it didn't get greenlit.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, because as pilot episodes, they would have been fine.
Anyhow.
Yeah. So, what you get pacing-wise is... Thank God they don't make us sit through origin stories in the movie.
Yeah.
Except for one. But that one is worked into the entire plot, and they give Cyborg an actual plot line and make him actually relevant to the story outside of being the MacGuffin.
Yeah, no, it's definitely understandable why the actor got so pissed. Like,
Yeah.
Cyborg is miles better in the Snyder Cut.
Mm-hmm.
Also, thank you for the follow.
Whedon also... So, in the Whedon cut, you got maybe you got maybe 30, 40 minutes of Snyder filmed footage, right? The rest was reshoots and remakes? Was something
Yeah,
like that?
it's like 30 minutes of reused footage, but most of it's in different contexts.
Mm. It's still a notably flawed production,
Yeah.
but it's not awful.
I really don't think Martian Manhunter needed it. Spoilers! I don't think anyone cares at this point. I don't think Martian Manhunter needed to be shoved in.
Martian Manhunter did not.
No. Or at the very least, save him for the cameo at the end and that's it. Don't put him in that other scene.
Yeah, no, that other scene didn't need to exist at all, but if it did exist, they shouldn't have changed anything. They should have just left it as, that's Martha Kent talking to Lois.
Not Martian Manhunter in disguise.
Do we get to call that scene Marsha Manhunter?
Marsha! So what else?
Well, there's a couple more additions I want to make on Snyder Cut. So, my biggest issue, and this is an issue DC has always had, comics and films, they have a speed problem.
You mean with how much slow-mo there was, or
Well,
pacing?
there's that, but that's a Snyder problem. It's neither. I'm talking about a literal characters move fast enough that...
They just kind of wiggle around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the characters move fast enough that you need the slow-mo to be able to show what they're doing. But if you need the slow-mo to show what they're doing, you're making a mistake with your storytelling because you shouldn't need that.
Mm-hmm.
It also turns into, oh, why do you have anyone except Flash or Superman around? Like, one of the things Marvel excels at is they don't have characters that are that much of a standout. Like, sure, they have some stronger characters. Like, out of the original lineup, the Hulk is by far the strongest. But you don't have a Superman. You don't have the Flash running into a city and taking out the entire population in the space of time it takes for a bomb to explode. Like, you don't get that. Which is really good, because you shouldn't get that.
like you said when we were watching it, DC just has a higher power level than Marvel.
In the films.
Yeah. Marvel is, I think, slowly getting there with all of the people they're introducing and kind of putting focus to, like Marvel, probably Photon. Strange is finally getting there.
Yeah, but, like, even them, they don't make the rest of the cast irrelevant.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, when you have Superman around, the others are basically irrelevant because nobody else is needed to take out Steppenwolf, who you already showed beating the entire team at once.
Speaking of Steppenwolf, he is handled a lot better. He
Yeah, no,
actually shows motivation. Yeah, he's a character.
Like, Steppenwolf, I actually really like as a villain.
Yeah. I kind of felt bad for him. He just wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Granted, that means mass genocide, but, you know, he just wanted to go home.
Like, he's a sympathetic genocidal maniac, and I don't say that lightly.
But I don't know about you. I had a problem with 10 minutes of Superman screaming at the beginning.
No, that beginning sequence needed some retooling. Conceptually, it's fine.
Yeah, like I get it, but did it have to drag on for 10 minutes of Superman screaming?
No, it's fine to have the establishing shot of 10 minutes, but
It was I was really bored when I first saw that, and I was like, okay, all right, when's this gonna end?
yeah. Wait, Espars, are you saying the diamonds make the rest of the cast irrelevant in Steven Universe?
Because they
I
don't.
They're also meant to do that.
Yeah, they're meant to be the rulers of the
Like,
gems.
they're meant to be that unreachable power ceiling to... They're not characters. They are obstacles.
Yeah.
But that's not our topic right now. But it's one of the things, the Justice League cartoons from the early and mid-2000s did very, very well. They nerfed Superman. They didn't have to buff anyone else. They just brought Superman down to the top of everyone else's level instead of on his own tier. Like, that's what you need to do with a character like that. He's too much. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, Esparson, and I agree with that.
Well, and even then, well, because we have no origin for the gems, but with the diamonds, it was straight up because they didn't know. They didn't know any better.
Yeah. Which doesn't make it right, but
No.
it makes it a lot more understandable.
I'm remembering, because we were talking about bad CG in the Justice League film. That shot during the screaming segment with Lex Luthor in the pool of Superman's ship looked so bad.
Yeah, it was so awful.
Because you could tell he was not in water. But they didn't composite the scene correctly to where it was believably he was in the water. You could just see they copy and pasted him in there and didn't exactly clean it up.
Yeah.
It was so distracting. So,
Also, very bad casting for Lex Luthor. He would have been much better as the Joker.
I'm just imagining Jared Leto as Lex Luthor, and I don't know how to.
No.
I don't know how to imagine that at all. Bald Leto.
Bald Leto would be something.
Oh my god.
I'm waiting for the fever dream of Pattinson Batman.
Of the what? Oh, right. Oh my god, that's a thing. I forgot. Apparently, you know, obviously they're gonna fudge it for the media, but supposedly his performance is actually pretty good. And I know
He's not a bad actor.
No,
he just
he's
has gotten shafted.
everyone but Kristen has gotten better. She has just remained a plank of wood.
Yeah.
From Twilight, but didn't Jacob's actor like retire?
Taylor
Why are
Lautner?
Yeah, I think Taylor Lautner retired. That's why he wasn't back for the We Can Be
For Shark
Heroes.
Boy, yeah.
Yeah. Why the fuck are we talking about this?
I don't know, you got on that tangent.
Oh my god. So many girls in my class just lusted over those two. I remember walking by someone's locker on Valentine's Day, and a heart-shaped cutout of, I think, Edward fell out of their locker.
That.
Ugh. Middle school sucks.
Yeah.
School sucks. I'm trying to think what else. Did you lust Skymin? No, I hated Twilight. I was also never the type of person to lust over celebrities and handsome, sexy people. It just wasn't my thing. I jokingly talk about Baptiste and life insurance, though. That one I joke about. I'm not serious.
Yeah.
I just think it's hilarious.
The joke of your fetish being that was
My fetish is Baptiste selling me life insurance.
Yes, you have a thing for Scout and his incredible ass.
I think you mean incredible lack of ass.
Yes, that's the joke.
He has no butt. Or he just hides his gluteus maximus to the world, otherwise it'll destroy it.
No, he has a gluteus minimum.
Based on the YouTube thumbnails, it's Soldier naked and everything. Soldier has been naked in one thumbnail, okay?
And pregnant in one.
God. What am I doing with my life?
I don't know. What are you doing with your life?
Pain and regret that I'm gonna have in a few years.
It's just YouTube's gonna make you unhireable.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it has at this point.
I don't know.
Something has told me it is. Because I'm not super clean on my stuff. You're making good content. Thank you. Tell that to YouTube and its algorithm. What else can we talk about? This is winding up a little short. Damn you, Ghibli, and your abstractness.
Too much.
Anything we've done recently that we can talk about?
If people are okay with spoilers, you could talk about the first 3 episodes of Invincible.
I think that's a little bit too new. That was like 2 days ago.
Yeah. Short version. First 3 episodes of Invincible are fantastic.
Yeah. Very good, more adult superhero. It's starting off very strong. I would recommend it.
It is. I would describe it as Teen Titans meets The Boys.
Yeah. It's definitely got a boys feeling. I don't think it's as strong in terms of the matureness for The Boys, but
Yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
But I mean, they do this what I talked about with nerfing Superman into. They don't necessarily nerf him, but they put him on a level that puts him where the rest of the cast would have a chance to actually do stuff.
Yeah.
But so far, I am absolutely loving that show.
Oh, yeah, no, I really enjoyed the first 3 episodes. It's nice to see Amazon finally getting some good content and them actually, advertising it. Because I know they tend to have a problem with advertising their shows, and a lot of people don't realize that a show exists until they happen to see it on the video page.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's from the same company that animated Legend of Korra?
Oh, yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
That's cool. Explains why muscles look good. Come on. Yeah, I like the flying sequences, not a cat. Also, the soundtrack is awesome. The Run the Jewels drop was awesome, was fantastic. What? I like Run the Jewels.
Dark. That didn't go through. I said dork.
Oh. Oh, yeah, you're not wrong. Some of it is a lot of shortcuts, but I get the feeling they're trying to stretch budget for a lot of it.
They probably are, because it is not a well-known property, meaning Amazon and any studio is going to be hesitant to put a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
And when you have an action superhero show, you gotta be careful.
I mean, you can see where the budget went in those episodes. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but
Yeah.
But it's well written. There's not too much of the like cringy, awkward humor that puts people off.
That's for just you.
It's really not.
You're the only one I know that has a huge issue with that.
And it's a bigger issue for me than most people, but it's a very normal thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's even beyond just secondhand embarrassment, it's just lazy writing. You don't need a punchline. The payoff is the lack of a punchline. But characters are all good. It's a very fun show.
Mhm.
Speaking of fun shows that also include Jason Mantzoukas for some reason, Close Enough we've been watching.
Oh, yeah. Well, you haven't seen the first season, but...
Well, now I have.
Did we finish the first season?
We got to where I had seen the first season.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so Close Enough, if you don't know, is a more adult-oriented show created by the creator of Regular Show. It is extremely similar to Regular Show in terms of the whole premise of normal everyday thing gets kind of wacky, but with humans and a family and friends, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I really like it. It's definitely one of the better adult animation things. It was actually not in development hell, but it was in publication hell for the longest time. If I remember correctly, it was originally supposed to air on like TLC, and then that fell through, and then it got held for like a year and a half before finally getting dumped onto HBO Max. Yeah, they could not find a time or a publisher.
Huh.
But I would definitely say, unless you're an adult, you're not going to get a lot of stuff. I mean, there's even stuff that flies over our heads because we're not like 30.
Yeah, there are a lot of references we don't get in the show, but overall, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Characters are all great, performances are all very good. There are times where it gets a little too ridiculous.
That's just kind of that Regular Show formula. That's just unfortunately how it works. I feel like, at least of what I remember of Regular Show, Close Enough is a little bit more grounded in its ridiculous situations than Regular Show is. But then again, Regular Show is the one with the movie where they go into space and do something about Pops and he becomes a guy. I'm not really sure. I don't remember.
Yeah,
something
I never
about
really watched
space
much
battle.
Regular Show.
Yeah, I couldn't get into Regular Show. Like, I tried.
What I have seen I've kind of liked, but...
Yeah. It was, I think it was Cartoon Network's first PG show. Like, they made it very obvious that it was not for little kids.
It's one of those things where it's the show that made us realize Jason Mantzoukas was popping up everywhere.
Yeah, everything we've been watching has Jason Mantzoukas, and if you don't know, you might know him as Derek from The Good Place. Holy shit, is he in a lot of voice acting roles nowadays.
Like, a lot.
Yeah. It's kind of insane, but it was probably his role on Derek that shot him up and made him recognizable and noticeable.
Oh, absolutely. He's also just a very good, very funny actor.
Yeah.
But like, things we've watched lately with him, like Ducktales.
Oh, right, he is in
Close
DuckTales.
Enough. He's in Invincible.
Speaking of DuckTales, 2017 reboot, very good, just finished, highly recommend.
Yeah, it is.
It is very good.
It's one of my favorite things I have watched in years.
Aside from Steven Universe, I assume.
Yeah.
We are very off on a tangent.
At this point, it's not even a tangent, it's the new topic.
What's the topic? Hold on.
Things we've watched and enjoyed.
Whatever.
Whatever we want to talk about.
There we go. Sorry if you came for Ghibli. Ghibli is over. Oh, that's cut off. Whatever, I'm not fixing it. You're just gonna have a cut off C.
I mean, we can talk about Ducktales for a few.
Yeah, hold on, let me change the... What the hell do I change the name to?
Eh.
We Talk. Which Ghibli films are definitely worth watching? Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle. I would argue Ponyo simply due to the visuals.
Yeah.
We Talk. There we go. I mean, how do we talk about DuckTales? DuckTales, as, like, if you've heard of DuckTales and discussions regarding it, DuckTales is how you do a reboot correctly.
Yes.
The original characters for DuckTales back in the, like, 90s are very shallow, and they were very Saturday morning cartoon depth. They had no depth.
They were still fun.
They were fun, but they had no personality, especially the triplets. But
Triplets had none.
Yeah, they had none. They were interchangeable. But the 2017 version rectifies that by giving them each distinct personalities and different voices. Because the original was voiced... The triplets were voiced by one person.
Yeah.
With no personality differences. But 2017 makes them very distinct. They make them their own characters with their own motivations and purposes. They do it for Webby as well.
Yes. They're all very fun.
Yeah.
Webby is great, actually.
Yeah. It's just Velma on crack.
And it's great. Like, I love Webby.
Have we watched Owl House? Yes, we have. It
Yes.
is also extremely good. I am staring at a Hootie profile picture right now because someone has that as their profile picture.
Oh, and I can do the voice!
Oh.
I turned out just fine.
Oh. I hate you so much.
Oh, man.
But two recommendations if you watch Gravity Falls are Amphibia and Owl House. Probably more so Owl House because it was straight up made by, what was she, a storyboard artist?
For Gravity Falls, yeah.
Yeah. With Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, having a lot of input and voicing two characters. Amphibia is definitely the more kiddie of the three, but they all kind of fall under that umbrella of ongoing sort of mystery thing. But Amphibia definitely, especially the first season, caters a lot more towards sitcom child show.
Yeah, we don't really get much plot until the last 3 or 4 episodes. But Amphibia is very fun. A lot of the jokes do tend to fall flat just because they're aimed at kids. But the ones that hit, like every 2 or 3 episodes, we would just bust a gut.
I don't think anything has made me laugh harder in a while than the the hip hip hooray, throw the character up, and then just crush all of the tiny characters that threw them up.
It was so good.
But yeah, Amphibia definitely treads a little bit too childish, but when you got Bill Farmer, the voice of Goofy, voicing a main character, you're gonna have a fun time.
Yeah. All the characters are very fun in that show. Like, all of them.
I mean, Anne is finally learning stuff, but as a main character, she was quite irritating for a while.
Yeah, but she's getting better.
Yeah.
And even though she was irritating, she was still very funny.
Yeah. Hope you like flossing.
One time.
But Owl House is really, really good. It's got both Amphibia and Owl House have very good world building.
Yes.
Like, if
That's
even
by far their strongest aspect.
Yeah, if even just to experience the world that those creators have made, it's worth watching both of them.
Owl House is definitely the stronger show to me.
Especially in season 1, which there is only one season right now. But Owl House is much tighter than Amphibia's season 1 was.
Granted, it was also more experienced showrunners.
And in my opinion, I do prefer the Owl House world over the Amphibia world. But I think that's
excellent.
Well, I think that's because Amphibia kind of has these artificial constraints on it in terms of what they can have in the world, while Owl House says magic and demons, fuck it, whatever we want to create.
Yeah, they are all fun.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the weird similarities just like between Owl House world and our world just kind of catch you off guard. It's like, oh, you have this? Hello?
I'm trying to think what you're talking about. Am I missing? Are you talking about the school bell?
No. Like every once in a while, it's just gonna like there's a lot of stuff that School Bell's actually a good example. Like you'll see something very similar
but
to what we have in our world.
Functions completely differently.
Like there's a character who has a watch that doesn't tell time, but you can set an alarm on it. And the watch is a very small, toothy demon that attaches to your wrist and bites the fuck out of the back of your hand for the alarm.
It's a surprisingly dark show in terms of the world. Like, hot damn, if you had put that on Disney a few years back, that show would have gotten canceled immediately.
Yeah. Like, they went hard on that show.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that I'm really surprised Disney was like, yeah, you go ahead, we'll fund you. But probably
it's super high quality from basically the girlfriend of the creator of Gravity Falls,
who again voices 2 main characters in the show.
Yeah, and a bunch of other side ones.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them is just his Bill Cipher voice.
Yeah.
One of them is just basically his Grunkle Stan voice. We haven't had a Seuss voice yet, have we?
No, I think Seuss and Grunkle Stan are a little too recognizable. The Grunkle Stan voice was definitely modified to make sure it wasn't as identifiable.
Oh, Amphibia does have a Gravity Falls reference episode.
That
is canonically an alternate universe Stan and Seuss.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You get him, Frog Seuss. It's such a silly show. Both of them are. Like, they're both very fun. Highly recommend. I think we're kind of winding down.
Yeah, we're just kind of rambling at this point.
Yeah.
I gotta...
We have not seen Hell of a Boss, not a cat.
I gotta figure out how to, like, really brand this, because it's really not a podcast. Because generally, unless I'm mistaken, generally podcasts don't really talk to an audience. It's just people talking, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Did you watch the Valve song? I have not watched it. I saw it advertised, but I have not seen it. I've not gotten a chance.
Same.
But I guess that is a good place to sort of just wrap it up.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I'm tired.
Yeah, that's about all I've got.
Thanks for coming out, guys. We might try to do this weekly. We've just had a lot on our plate recently.
A lot.
Yeah. But it might be good to just do this weekly. Choose a different topic each time. I think I can make a backlog of topics to talk about.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Do a big.
Bye, guys.